which is excellent. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Can we ask?
The Wellbeing, please.
The Wellbeing Cafe. Yeah. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Hopefully you've all had a chance, item number 3, to read the minutes of the previous meeting, which seems a long time ago, December. Just was the interlude. Is everyone happy with those, and can we take those as read? Yes. Thank you very much. That's item number 3. So we swiftly move on to the finance report, item number 4.
Thank you, Chair. This is the usual structure for the report, and this time includes the lower information. And the calendar year closed with the balance of the Town Council's funds at £2,878, and so for the 2 accounts, they were reconciled to the 31st of December as required. Payments during December came to a total of 43,378, of which 4,401 was attributable to working sort of garden. The full list of payments in the month is attached to members' information. And the costs were offset by receipts of £16,288, with 4,598 of that coming from Salisbury Gardens rent. The list of payments and receipts against preset budget lines for the financial year to date is attached and shows that payments in the period were £37,788 over budget, and receipts over the period were £15,036 better than budget. That's the report.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Does anyone have any questions in particular on any of the items here? Yes, Councillor Lucas, please.
I always like to make a comment. We appear to be about 22,000 behind budget at this stage, which is Q3, isn't it, of our year?
Where do you get our figure from?
Well, you're 57,000 negative on the expenditures and 15,000 up on the income. So take the 2 away, it would appear to be 22,000 budget. And my question, my question is, how do you see that panning out for the rest of the year? Or do you think we're going to stay in a negative situation?
I think in relation to these budget lines, yes. I think overall I'm still expecting a year-end balance roughly around the same as last year.
Yeah, but against this budget we will be overspent. Basically.
We usually do.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. We did last year too.
Right.
But it's offset by income from Salisbury Gardens and the car park.
Car parks, yes. Okay.
Is there anyone else has anything that they'd like to bring up? So can I have a proposal, please? Councillor. And a second, please. Councillor. So moving on swiftly to item number 5, the Wellbeing Cafe. It's really nice to have something as successful as the Wellbeing Cafe to talk about. I think that most of us do pop down there from time to time, and we do know quite a lot about how successful it's been. And it's quite exciting to think that it really does need to expand. So we have a paper here which we should consider whether or not we think it's a good idea to extend the Wellbeing Cafe to be available 5 days a week, and that would mean having the coordinator post, which is the well-known Terry, to work a full 35-hour week, which in actual fact I believe she probably does now, but she does it voluntarily. So it would be sort of formalising that. But the numbers are increasing and have increased tremendously. It always seems very, very busy, and there is obviously a finite amount of room. So that would be the thinking on that, but having it over more days. And also there is a hope that there would be a hot meal on 2 days a week, which is quite exciting, rather than just on the Friday, which works in with other things happening elsewhere. So can we have some input from everyone, please? Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
Well, I'd like to say that I think it's been a resounding success. I've attended quite a few of these sessions. In my professional life, I have to deal with the ONS, so I know that figures for mental health, wellbeing, depression, anxiety, all those types of things are shooting up, potentially as a result of the pandemic, potentially as a result of the cost of living and the pressures that we've actually got now. I think as a council, this is one of the flagship successes that we've actually got. So I think the more that we can build on it and fortify it with somebody of the calibre of Terry, I think that's the right thing to do. So I definitely will be endorsing this decision.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cooper. Is there anyone else?
Just throwing it. I mean, it's very useful to have evidence from the newsletter. Members know what's going on anyway, but we can see how successful it is when members speak for themselves. But the one caveat, I will support in principle, the one caveat I wonder is, do we have to consider this in conjunction with budget setting to decide on the figure, or can we do that at the decision now? That's my question.
Can you answer that, Town Clerk, please?
And the staffing committee met this morning and looked at all the range of salaries as they usually do at this time of year, and that included the full-time salary proposal, although the committee were very clear that it was dependent on a decision of the council tonight. But the salary level has been agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Just to pick up on that, the figures are that the cost of the salary increases for the whole council next year is projected at 30,000 extra, of which this would be half.
Right.
So the cost of this proposal is the same as the cost of the pay increases for all the other staff put together. Just to put it in context, so it is quite an expensive proposal. And as the clerk says, we avoided getting into discussing the merits because it's for this council to do.
So does anyone else have any feelings on the financial aspect of it in particular?
Yeah, I personally, money well spent actually. You've only got to come down and have a cup of coffee with them, but how it gives them is phenomenal. You can talk to them, and it's just, without it, they would do it that way. You know, they look forward to it, they look forward to the company. It's a great group, and we should heavily support it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You
can speak. Yes, it's fine.
Okay, just to let everyone know, Alison will probably correct me if I've got the numbers right, that the cafe and the community this Christmas raised £1,650 to help boost their funds, their activities and support, which is not a considerable sum of money.
That was with the big hamper raffles.
The Wellbeing Cafe did 3, and Dave at the Crab and Lobster very kindly donated a very large hamper of alcohol, and he raised the bulk of the money.
Oh, okay.
Which was very generous of him, and he's always very, very generous with the group, always. So I'd like to, extend my thanks to him and that to the council.
So will we be writing to thank him?
I think that might be a good thing to do, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's not just a one-off, he does this on a regular basis.
Yes, so can we put that in the minutes, please, that we'd like to thank him. Thank you for that, it was useful information. So everyone seems to think that in principle this is a great idea. I think the timing is such that really it's the best thing we can spend our money on now at this present time, because things don't seem to be going in a very positive direction with the country at the moment. So if we could have someone to propose that we agree the extension of the Wellbeing Cafe to 5 sessions a week and the consequent salary cost to fund the coordinator for 35 hours a week. Thank you very much. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, and Councillor Warren. Sorry, we don't sit in the same place every week, do we? So I have to reorientate myself. Thank you for the input that we have there. Another quite interesting subject, which we've got some wonderful information on. Hopefully you've all studied the graphs to look at how successful the new website has been. I know a lot of effort was put into the website by people that are skilled in that area, and also Nigel has done an excellent job in expanding it to make it very user-friendly. I think that it is a very easy site to navigate. I think it is doing a lot of good work. And there were some really interesting spikes if you looked at the number of visits to the site and how long people looked at it. So I don't know if any of you have played with the site to see whether or not you think there's an area that needs expanding. It would be nice for Nigel to have some suggestions, if you have suggestions that areas need to be expanded, or if there's a new area that we're not covering. But I think if you look at the headers, it does give a pretty good overview of Ventnor, something that wasn't available before this site was up and running. So those of you that whose forte this is, if you would like to comment on it, we'd love to hear from you, please. Go, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like you, Chair, I think these data is mildly encouraging, but I think what would be interesting, I don't know whether we can get hold of it, would be some comparative data. Our supplier supports quite a few councils, first tier councils around the country. It would be interesting to know how these figures compare with others. The page view statistics seem to have levelled out at about between 20 and 30 visits a day. I have no idea whether that's good or not. It's nice that it's being used. What I thought was slightly surprising is how level it is across the year. You would sort of expect it would start low, and then as more people find the site, it will pick up, and that hasn't happened. I don't know quite why that is. I suspect part of the reason may be that the visits during the early months, most of them will probably be council looking at the site and updating the pages, and we've probably been replaced by more residents as the year has gone on. But it is surprisingly level, and that's it. As a brand new site, given that our previous site we weren't really using very much, is interesting. And in fact, in relation to the previous site, it's surprising how few. If you look at the third page where it says the referrals, it's surprising how few referrals there were from the old site, which suggests the old site was pretty much moribund. Only 16 people have come through from the old address. So it does suggest we're starting with new users. It's interesting when people always say it, one of the surprises is how short most visits are, and that does come through from these figures. I think the average visit is less than a minute. When you put together a website, you tend to spend ages poring over the pages, imagining that somebody's going to be sitting there reading it in detail. Whereas most people that come to the site are looking for one piece of information. They want the council's phone number, or they want the address of the local service, or they want to know when an event is, and they come to the page, find the information they want, and they're gone within 30 seconds. And then we've probably got a handful of people who spend their evenings poring over it in detail, and that averages out at 1 minute per visitor. It was interesting in terms of the monthly spread that summer months were the highest, which is what you'd expect, but only very marginally so. And given that the population in Ventnor increases significantly in the summer, and given how many events and things going on there are in July and August, it's surprising that there isn't a bigger summer peak. Now, I mean, that may be because it was the first year. It suggests that actually, as we come towards the holiday season for this year, one of the improvement opportunities might be to think about how we promote the site. Maybe even something as simple as putting a notice on our notice boards during the summer explaining that the site has information for visitors, and also thinking about what information we have got on the site for people visiting the town. When we launched the site, we deliberately prioritised stuff about the council for legal reasons and stuff about the town. We didn't prioritise the visitor stuff, and I would suspect that if we look at the pages we have, there's probably more we could be doing for information for people visiting the town. That might be one of the improvement opportunities. I was intrigued to see we've got all these hits from Cyprus. I can't imagine how that came about, but at least we know that our staff keep their hand on their holidays. Otherwise, I think it's mildly encouraging, but it would be useful if our supplier could give us a steer as to how this compares with similar councils.
Similar councils with a similar size. I wondered if it was actually event driven, but I couldn't actually prove that. I did look at the dates that we had things going on in Ventnor, and when I looked at it, it didn't seem to, that was what I was thinking, this is where I would go if I wanted to know details about, say, Ventnor Day or something, but it didn't seem to be that way. I also wondered how many of these people, I know we're broken it down to the UK and abroad, but I wondered how many of the people are local that look at it and how many people are visitors. I did wonder what the appeal to visitors was. I don't know if anybody else thought of that.
Some of them will be missing. So my guess, the American ones are probably people looking for event in New Jersey and landing on the wrong page by accident.
Yeah, that
You
is
will
the
get
trouble
things
with
like
Ventnor,
that.
isn't it? Yeah. I wondered whether it would be useful, as this is the first time this has come up since we've had the new site, whether or not we could all agree to spend a bit of time between now and the next meeting playing with the site ourselves and seeing where... Well, no, yes, it would boost the figures, I grant you. And also the time spent would go up, wouldn't it, per visit, yes. But I do think that there might be some areas that some of us could say, well, I think we could do more. Or take, for example, the biodiversity. Is it all up to date on there? No. So yeah, so it's going to be constantly evolving, isn't it? I think Nigel's got a job for life here. But maybe we could all use our specialist areas and look through this month. Would anyone think that's a good idea?
Yes, certainly. But one of the things I'm not clear on here is how many of these are repeat visits. How many people are actually using it? Is it the same people coming back all the time? Or is it different people coming? And that's, maybe I'm missing something, but I'm not seeing that.
On the back there is a user number. I don't know whether that's the answer or not.
We might need to ask Nigel if he knows that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean,
they could be different users or the same people coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, are we sort of providing quite a high value service to a sort of smaller number of people, or is it just people coming in and actually suggest picking up a bit of information and collecting one from it?
So Nigel, is there any way we can tell that?
Really, there's any way I can do that, and it's very something that I have on that further way through it is to do a breakdown of each month that actually then shows new users to existing users. But the information is very difficult to extrapolate from that graph. That was just a snapshot. I can break it down even further, but it is quite fun to do.
Would it be possible to do it? Could I suggest you did it just on a 1 month basis? We don't want it permanently, but just as a snapshot for 1 month to see if we can get some idea of that.
Yeah.
Would everybody think that would be a good idea to see? Yes. Yeah, and we have to somehow promote this, I think, a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, most modern organisations will push all of their traffic to their website,
So, you know, it would be ideal to have the minutes of all of the sub-working groups as well as this main council body to be on there, to be fully accessible, so that residents have got a full portfolio of what actually we're actually doing. So it's about promotion and pushing residents that way to the website. We've got a good website, it's user friendly, let's make the best use of it.
I think
That's how we do that.
Very relevant that it's user friendly, because so many people don't go to a website because they're not easy to navigate, but this one is. It's been done really, really well.
There's quite a bit of information that we need to put on there from the environment group, and the way it's set out at the moment. So ideally, we spend some time with Nigel to go through that and update it.
Perhaps we should check with Nigel. How is the best way for us to give you new information, Nigel?
Nobody comes forward with the information. That's one of the problems. Most of the minutes of meetings are on there. All of these minutes are on there verbatim. But if the information is given to me, I can't put it on there. I have mentioned many times that give me something, I'll put it on.
So if we have events and that, we need to be sure to give you
events throughout the year are put on there, not even just our events, every other event goes on there. If people come to me and say I've got an event, it goes on events calendar. And then that slides across, and it shows a snapshot of the events at the moment. You can go and look at the events calendar. And last year it was full, whether it's busking or theatre groups across the island. If they give me the information, it goes on the website.
And that's the sort of thing that in the come summer holiday season we could put, you know, if we don't put on notice boards, just a homemade poster that says, you know, events in Ventnor with the website address. That's the sort of thing that people who are visiting the town will see, and that may get some more traffic to the website.
I think as well, I mean, I see more and more things from Ventnor Town Council going on Facebook, which is a good thing. So I'm assuming it's you behind the keyboard there, Nigel. So I mean, that's all super stuff. I mean, that's sort of a very, very obvious way to drive traffic. I mean, the people I'm working with at the moment, I wrote a blog post, I put it up on the website, it had a dozen reads, I looked at it, that's it. Put it onto Facebook, and last count, it had 14,000. Because that's the viral thing, isn't it? You know, it got shared and shared and shared, and that's it. And that is the difference. It is a difficult proposition, having a website. But I mean, the trick, of course, is putting something somewhere that, you know, they call it clickbait for a reason, don't they? Putting something somewhere that leads people in. People aren't going to randomly think, oh, wake up in the morning, I know, I'll go and see what's on this website.
Just to most of the stuff that we put out now goes with a QR code which takes it to the website.
Okay.
I've got a QR code generated which we put on, and then that leads you to the website. And that's why I think some of it looks like a repeat viewing, because it's people that click on the QR code and take the effect on it. But it comes from the same QR. It is direct into the website.
So I was just going to question, Nigel, we've got these top posts and pages. These are the popular ones, and there are others, are there? There is.
I mean, if I can, that's the time consuming thing. I can do graphs and charts, but it is very, but they're just the top 10, that's just a snapshot of the top 10, and they're regular top 10.
I think analytics can give you actually the list of the search terms that people use to arrive at the site. Is that right? Certainly used to be the case when I used Google. Has it gone?
Sign up to and pay Google for that.
Okay, it used to be part of the free analytics. Yeah. That's a shame, because that was always the most interesting thing, to actually see what people had typed in to arrive at the site. And it also told you which sites they come from as well, which is probably not so relevant for us because we're probably not doing that much.
But just like everything else, that you have to pay for it these days.
Yeah, that's a shame.
That's a shame, yeah. So can we all agree that it would be really nice if we could all look at the areas that we're particularly interested in and report back to our next meeting? And then I think that would probably help Nigel to get the very best for the website for us, so that it can do the best that we can do for the town. So I don't think we no, we don't need. So we can now move on if everyone's happy with that. And to another interesting subject, climate and biodiversity public engagement, which I think Councillor Pocket is going to present to us.
Yeah, thank you, Steph. Where to start? All right, so where to start? I'd like to thank everybody that partook. Julie, thanks a million. You went along to the 4 meetings. Brian was there for 3 of them as well. Thank you very much. The support was much appreciated, and everybody else who put their heads in at one point or another. Hopefully everybody's had a little read through the report here. All in all, we did not really hit the objectives that we were hoping to. There was a mixture of objectives, but mostly they were about discovering projects that were ongoing in town already that we could potentially give a boost to, or discovering people who were really keen to get into new projects that we could have cooked up amongst ourselves. And I have to say, we didn't really hit upon those things, which was a little bit of a shame. But it's very instructive for us as well. I have to say that all of the people that did attend the meetings loved them. Very, very, very grateful. Everybody was really happy, very, very glad to have that opportunity, and they're very excited at the idea that somebody's actually making an effort going out there and trying this thing. We had a great many people come from other parts of the island. We had Ryde, Wootton, Cowes, Gurnard, West White, Sandown. I think that was it. But other people coming to observe the process because, there's a lot of people who have their eye on the ball with climate and biodiversity things. A lot of people are very, very passionate about the subject, and people are sort of screaming out, for something to happen. So the town council doing this, which I'm 99% sure was a first on the island, it did attract quite a lot of interest. Where we go from here, as you can see, coming down to the bottom, detailed notes were taken throughout the meetings, mostly by Julie. The credit has to go over there really. Between Julie and myself, we're going to go through those notes and come up with an action plan and try and tease out some tangibles from those meetings and things that we can really try and take forward. So, I'd invite the other people, first of all, who participated in the meetings.
Well, again, I'd just like to thank Steve and Julie for being the main protagonists for organising that. I think it was a useful exercise and everyone else that supported it. At Larverville, we tried to really get the message out. In fact, me and Mark actually went door-to-door leafleting, and we still had a full response, which was really, really, really very, very disappointing. And I know that there's a lot of pressures on people, but the message still really isn't getting out there that this planet is sort of headlong for destruction, and you can't put it any other way. That's the annihilation of the humankind, and we're still sitting here talking about what measures we can actually do. So I don't want to over-dramatise it, but that's what we're actually looking at. We're looking down a barrel of a gun. I've had conversations with other councillors, and I think that it is about promotion. It's about a slow drip, about getting that message over. I've just come back from Croatia, where I saw in a very large city that there was posters literally everywhere with 2 pairs of eyes saying, "Keep your eye on the planet," giving that subliminal message time and time and time and time again. It worked for me because I noticed it straight away. All right, I'm interested in that subject area, obviously, but it does work because I started talking to local people who basically says it has to come from us, it has to come from our personal behaviours, and the job of councils and governments is to actually persuade. We can't use a big stick, although sometimes I would like to, but we have to persuade. We have to get that message across that we are in dire straits. It's called climate crisis for reasons because we are in crisis, and we have to get that message across. And I'm quite passionate about it, but I do think that we need to stay on this road, and I think that this was a great initiative. I think we've learned some good lessons here, and I think we build from here.
Steve, what was the main subject? Snowflake most of all. Is it tipping anything particular?
Julie, do you want to answer that? Because you sort of collected data, really, didn't you?
Yeah, we had priorities.
Yeah.
So we had a sticker chart then, and we were asking each table what their priorities were. Food security was very high. Education was extremely high. And home insulation. But you know, I mean, everybody kind of, you know, there'd be a conversation going on around transport and, you know, and about buses and things like that. So, you know, varied conversations that are going on, but we know what the priorities are, and from there we can say, right, okay, well, this is what people told us that we need to prioritise, and that's the first thing we're going to do. So, you know, I think we've got firm feet to start from. What I personally found really great was not only just meeting new people in Ventnor that are concerned, but it's actually the people that are coming in from outside of Ventnor, because the work that me and Steve have been done with IVOLC and together from Mission Zero is that we're trying to encourage other town and parish councils and just local groups just to set up and start networking. And if somebody's doing something in Shetland, you know, tell us what you're doing, let us know how it looks, and then, you know, and then share how you're doing it. And I think that's really key to this. And you know, we're forming very good friendships. The last one that we had in St Wilfrid's, we had a gentleman from the Wildlife Sanctuary in Sandown, and there was a psychologist there as well. And I hadn't met either of those, and they were really interested, you know. So I think for that aspect of it, but it's quality rather than quantity. You know, it was meeting the right people, and that's where we had to start off with. So personally, I thought it was very successful, and now it's going to be crunching all of that data and saying, right, we know what our priorities are. Let's try this. Yeah.
Can I just come in again? So I did 8 hours throughout these sessions. And actually, I think in the last 5 minutes, or maybe in the last 2 minutes, was the most prescient, the best bit for me happened in the last 2 minutes. We were speaking to the guy who was a psychologist. He's a qualified psychologist. He knows how to talk to people very, very, very well. And he basically told me that what we need to do is always accentuate the positive. So anything that the council does, that where we have that possibility to say, you know, we are doing this, and those are the messages that we have to be doing. It is leading is what it's about. And I think, you know, I'm thinking on my feet now a little bit. I think in this process, you know, we went out to see if there was other people that could lead and other people that could like take up that mantle. And actually, I think that has to come really from the council, this council and other councils and the Isle of Wight Council and so on.
And groups as well, existing groups.
And just well, sorry, I won't take up any more of the meeting after this. And then we're talking about the other people who come in from other towns. So, for example, if they have the same process, I'm speaking to a Rye Town councillor in a couple of days' time. If they do the same process in Rye, but they have 6 times the population, then let's say they get 180 people, then they might have those more possibilities to identify fantastic projects. And then maybe in a year's time, that feedback will bounce back over here. So we might have, you know, thrown a pebble into the pond, which, you know, the circles might go out and but they might come back our way as well. So it's definitely a worthwhile exercise.
It's definitely. I was very disappointed in the number of people who came. I was expecting a lot more because we leafleted people, etc. But when I reflected on that afterwards, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's the government that's supposed to be doing all this." And I think we are in a fantastic position for actually being the local link to what people's behaviour should be locally, because you know you can't expect the government to do everything, because we've got 6,000 people in the town, all of which have got habits and lifestyles which are adding to the problem and part of the solution. So I think we've got to stick with it and use our influence locally, using all the positive sides we can. And I think, you know, there's a lot of goodwill, and the people who did come I spoke to the people who said, why didn't you come? They said, well, it's not really us, you know, it's,
Did they feel it was a bit
yes.
woo-woo?
They say, oh, I'll recycle my plastics, etc., but the rest of it's down to the government. Well, it's not. I mean, the government cannot do it all. And so, I mean, we've got to stick in this role and influence people locally, and give them examples of what they can achieve practically.
Absolutely.
So, we can carry on.
Yeah, I think from what I can gather from what's been said, that there are so many areas that need looking at. It's a huge task. It's not just one thing. It's not just recycling, as you said. You know, it's other things. It's travel. It's your home. There's like, oh gosh, there must be an absolute.
It's a change of lifestyle.
Yeah,
quite a bit. Yeah.
But I would think Ventnor was quite well placed to actually be quite a pioneer in this on the island, because I think here we are not as, what can I say, well, not like sort of London town, are we? We're quite sort of country, and we walk places, and a lot of people walk, a lot of people cycle. I think we've got a good chance here of moving this forward, I would say, personally.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed, I did a couple of groups with them, one of the ones, certainly the one we did, the first one I did, one of the points that came back is that what can the actual council do? And one of the things they said is maybe to fix on one particular thing, maybe a biodiversity issue, or maybe something issue like the insulation issue. And then the council can actually lead on that. And as the council leads on that, that allows the actual discussion to go forward about how it affects the climate and the biodiversity thing. And I think that's where we can have an impact. If we find an issue that we think that we can actually, as a council, lead on, then we can actually make the first step to actually start the process going and actually show yourself as a council that actually is willing to go and start taking the steps to do something. And certainly the ones that came up for us was the stuff on the hills, but on the biodiversity side was sort of well up in there. And then, but the big one that we kept calling back to was talking about the insulation. Warm homes.
And I wouldn't be too discouraged by the number of people turning out of an evening to discuss something generic, because there aren't that many people that will do that on any subject really. And people will turn out if they can see something they can get involved in,
and that was
affects them. So
your warm homes, I think, is a strong one.
And first two councils are doing. I mean, there are some quite interesting activities around the country going on, particularly on. I mean, in the West Country, they've got a bulk buying project that a lot of first tier councils involved in. It came from Holland originally, where the parish or town council negotiates with a supplier of whether it's solar panels or insulation, and actually offers discounted deals to their residents. And the idea is that they sign up 100 people, and it's cheaper for the company. I mean, that's happening, I think, in parts of Somerset now. And it's something that's been very successful in Holland. And if you want a list of concrete, specific things that parish councils have done, if you go on an outlet site, there is an exceptionally good database of best practices. You've seen that, I haven't seen it. It's basically pages and pages that are examples of all British parish and town councils and things they've done on the environment. And so there are some quite good resources out there if we go looking for them. The other area which we might want to think about at some stage is planning. I mean, having a local plan is a big undertaking, and there are some cons. There are also some opportunities, in fact, financial opportunities as well as opportunities to make a difference on the environment. And that's a big piece of work. And there may be some good reasons why we're not in a position to do that. But I know that I think there've been some informal discussions about it. But as a council, we've never had a discussion with the reports about what would be involved in a local plan and what the problems are, what the opportunities are. So it takes several years to do it. It is a big undertaking. But I mean, even just discussing that as an idea, because I mean, building, there's a lot of environmental stuff you can build into a local plan.
Yes, that's been mentioned in the past, hasn't it? I don't think it's actually come to fruition.
Well, it may be an issue for the planning committee to consider first.
I think maybe we also are thinking about some of the things that have happened over the last year, where the water at the Cascade and that was not as wasteful. That was capturing the natural water And then we have the weed killer situation, which we looked at, which, I mean, these things are all connected, aren't they? But I think that is the problem. It is such a huge subject. I'm sort of thinking, what about that? What about that? What about that? So, Julie, I'd be very interested when you've written it up to see the areas that were discussed. I think it would make some very interesting reading to go forward.
Yeah, it was diverse.
Yes,
The
yes.
conversations that were having, you know, and the specialists that we met as well. It was diverse. So I can see lots of exciting projects coming out of it.
Yes, yes.
Sure.
But it's a slow start, and you know, you are the pioneers here in Ventnor anyway, so you have to, you know, suck the arrows, don't you? Yeah. Okay, has anybody else got anything to add on the
The final word then, yes.
Yes, please do.
Yes, it is a very, very, very big topic and it's extremely diverse, but the number one thing, stop burning fossil fuels. And that's what I tried to get across in my presentation for 15 minutes. Yes, it's a huge, huge, huge topic. If you know, but as mankind, if there's one thing, it's that. So.
Well, thank you, Stephen. That's duly noted. I've got an electric car. Okay. Right, thank you. So shall we now move on to item number 8, the last item this evening, the town clerk. I noticed, town clerk. I did notice.
So just to record the success of the Christmas events and activities. Noting about the highly successful Wellbeing Cafe's Christmas lunch, greatly enjoyed by some members of staff as well as the cafe members. Thank you very much indeed. Community support fund, an update as I promised on the main headings of that. The committee meets again on Thursday this week. And finally, this about the working group. I'll try and be better next month.
Thank you. Well, that's very nice. It's very succinct, that. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this evening's meeting. And Happy New Year, if I haven't said it to everyone.
Yeah, I'm still there.
You're still here,
You turned out like a bad pen.
Yeah. I thought perhaps you had a night off.
No, they're operating tonight. You're talking about having a month off in August. Yeah, that's pretty unusual. Gods will do.
Yeah.